Evening, everybody. What I'm going to report on, we published the third economic impact study in January of this year. It's supported by the TBA, by the Horse Levy Board and the Racing Foundation, and that we're particularly appreciative of their support, but it recognises how important these studies are to the industry. The first one was key to the TBA being able to present a case that was fact-based. The second one gave us an opportunity to compare where we were going, and this one has been able to allow us to look at trends, to look at different areas of the industry, and to focus results on what the data is. It allows the TBA, should go, no, red, there you go, there you go. First, the good news. We have a world-class industry. There's no doubt about that at all. We breed the world's best racehorses by far. In terms of proportion, we're way out on our own. We're a key industry. We still produce about 500 million of GDP contribution every year. We support 21,000 jobs, and that they're all absolutely key, but that's where probably the good news stops. The big problem that we face in this industry is the spread of profitability. That we look at book one figures and that we can be seduced by the numbers that are given there, although this past week has been a much tougher ride for many breeders. But if we look at the industry overall, what this tells us is that if you bred a foal or a yearling in this country, that you'd lose either 26,000 as a foal and 36,000 as yearling. How do we reach that? We looked at the last 4 years, the sales from 2017 to 2021 of all British-based stock. We applied a nomination fee that was appropriate at the time of covering, and we applied a figure of £26,000 for keep during that period. Now, we can all argue about whether that's too much, not enough. We didn't include depreciation, and that shows you that the parlous state of our profitability, and it's something that we've got to improve, and that then turns itself around into the facts. People are exiting the industry. We've lost 1,000 mares since 2017, and we're losing breeders exponentially, particularly the smaller breeders, the 1 and 2 mare owner breeders. Since 2009, we've lost 1,300 of those. And that if you look at the top end, the bigger breeders, since 2009, 5 plus has gone from 367 down to 295. And the 3 to 4 mare owners, 490 down to 296. This is a trend that we've seen on every economic impact study. And that you can't question it. There isn't the return on investment. We've got to work hard to redress this balance, and that the work that we're doing at the TBA is not going to make changes immediately. We're all in the same boat too, because if you look at the global foal crop, everybody of a racing nation of any consequence is seeing a deterioration in foal crops. And that this slide is vital for me, because I hear people say, well, it doesn't matter. If we haven't got a British breeding industry, what we'll do is we'll go and buy in product from other markets, and that we'll be fine. Well, we won't, because the other industries haven't got the product that's surplus if they want to maintain their own racing industry. And secondly, we've got the additional competition of other racing domains that are springing up all over the place and that do not have the capacity to breed racehorses. So they've got to come here. What we've got to do over the next 20 years is improve these circumstances and make a compelling case for reinvestment in our industry. And we've already started that. GBB has been a huge success. We launched it in 2020, and that with the commitment of the TBA and the enthusiasm of Charlie Newton, we're really making strides. By the way, Charlie Newton's no relative to me. She would be horrified if you thought that. This year, well, if you take a comparison to the first year, we're 17% up this year on foal registrations versus 2020. That's fantastic. We're getting 85% of the total filly foal crop that's registered to GBB. That is fantastic, particularly as we budgeted initially for 65%. That's the good news. The bad news is that it puts huge pressures on our budget as a consequence of that. We've got more horses winning GBB races, we've got more trainers targeting GBB races, and we've got more owners wanting GBB fillies to race. What we now want to see, and we are seeing, is that those fillies convert back into the breeding shed, because if owners are winning a decent prize money and decent bonuses, they have a compelling reason to stick with their filly, and that they are sticking with their filly, and it's transforming back into the breeding shed. What it's done is that it's transformed the value of fillies in the sales ring. In 2020, the differential between a colt and a filly was 36%. We've now halved that to 16%, and you can see the difference that it's making. GBB has been a huge success for us, and what we now need to do is to build on that. One of my great hobby horses is that every time I have an opportunity to talk to the levy board, to Alan Del Monte, I impress upon him that every penny piece that we spend, we've got to get a return on the investment. It's no good just throwing money, not that there is money to throw at prize money. We've got to look at it, target it, structure it. Intervention and incentive works. GBB is working, and we need to build on that. The EIS recommendations were, and I've already done the GBB commercial, prize money growth is fundamental. That's why it's important that the TBA is represented around every table. Premierisation is on everybody's lips at the moment. It represents, in my terms, a huge opportunity to restructure the industry, but we have to get it right. It's no good a compromise. The Premier Football League didn't compromise, and funnily enough, there are two other sports that you wouldn't imagine but have gone down the premierisation route, table tennis and volleyball, and both of them have benefited significantly financially as a consequence. Table tennis, for example, has got a £46 million investment. That's half of what we get from the levy board. Premierisation is a real opportunity. That's why it's important that the TBA are there at industry arguing the case. Creative development of funding and nomination fees. We've spent time talking to all of the stallion studs, and that they are open for business, they are open to talk. And that what I urge every breeder is that when they're buying a nomination, sit down and talk to the stallion owners. They want to support you, and that they want you to visit their horses. But it's a marketplace, and that be sure to make the most of your opportunity. We want to create incentives to increase the number of flat stallions standing in this country, and that's got to be a role somewhere along the line for GBB, because that's the opportunity that we've got to do it. Breeding and ownership models are equally important. I mean, if you look at racehorse ownership now, it's clear that syndicates are really moving forward, and that there's a real opportunity for breeding ownership models, and that the TBA is going to work on developing those. We also recognise that staff shortages are an issue, and that we've worked with the industry to get special dispensation as far as certain areas of that is concerned. But the biggest thing that we can do, and it comes back to where I started from, the biggest thing we can do is to develop an industry that provides a compelling, and it's that word compelling again, a compelling case for a career opportunity. And that's what we must do. So as I said, the stud visits, they were very valuable. We have visited every major stallion stud, and that to a T, all of them were supportive, welcoming, enthusiastic, and absolutely determined to make the most for the British breeder and the British breed. As I've said, continued development of GBB, support for British breeders, which is what the TBA enthuses about all of the time. We need to encourage new entrants, and I'll come on to that shortly, and government support for breeding as far as we are able. We all would like the government to treat us as a special case, but there are loads of special cases out there, and that we've got to work on self-help. The more self-help that we achieve, the better our case will be made. And that we already have a major concession in VAT, and that not every industry has that opportunity. And so that we need to remember that. And that I do hear some members say, some to me, some of you, the government ought to do this, the government ought to do that. There's lots of other deserving cases out there. We need to look after ourselves. So, GBB next steps, record registrations, as I said. We had problems this year as far as our budget was concerned, again, because trainers are targeting, we got more fillies racing, but the levy board supported us with additional funding. The more successful GBB is, the more pressure it's going to put on the funding. However, the levy board are extremely enthusiastic about it. They see that a real return on investment, and they are encouraging us to look at alternatives. What we hope is sometime next year is to have developed some plans to extend the scheme, both for flat and for national hunt. National hunt breedings are very important in this country. It represents an enormous part of the levy, and that needs supporting. But we're moving in the right direction there because, and it's small beer, and I accept it's small beer at this stage, but we've moved from 250 fillies being registered for GBB to 456, I think, this year. And that's in 3 years. And that it shows what we can do. The elite mares scheme under National Hunt custody has moved that forward too. We've got ambitions and aspirations for both codes, and we're going to deliver them. I talked about encouraging new entrants into the industry. I am very, very enthusiastic about TBA access. It's a new tier of membership. It's designed specifically to recruit new members, and it's not just for those that have an interest in the industry, but those that are interested in the industry. If we can start recruiting them, and that it's going to provide, in my terms, and that this is Philip Newton's, entertainment, engagement, and education. That the younger people these days, they want experience and opportunity and networking, and that they're all of the things that we're going to give them. We're going to build on the success of the conference because that's the sort of experience that they want, and we're going to learn from everyone in the industry. But we've soft launched access, and that we've already got 300 members, and that I'm afraid that I'm censored as far as my ambitions for access are concerned. But if I tell you that Elite Racing have 42,000 members, and I think the TBA is a much, much different and credible proposition, that when I'm standing here whenever it is to give my goodbye speech, I hope that I can demonstrate that we really do make a difference as far as those membership is concerned. It's a huge opportunity, needs supporting. The other thing too, and that for all of the employers here too, it's going to be a great retention tool for you. Don't underestimate that. Recruitment's one thing, retention's gold dust. So that's as much as we can do. As you can see, we've picked up the ball and we're running with it, and we're going to increase our pace.